and welcome to Village in Motion. I'm Marcia Boyles, and I'm delighted to begin this morning by introducing my co-producer and co-host, Kathleen Taylor. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning.
And your new title, which is Clinical Social Worker at the Medical Center.
I know.
Wow. Kathleen, let's begin by you introducing our very special guest today.
Yeah. I'm really happy to introduce somebody that doesn't need an introduction, though. Our medical director here at Green Spring, Dr. Dar, who is also my new boss.
Just incidentally.
That's right. So we got to be nice to him.
Dr. Dar, we're just delighted to have you today.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I just, sort of to preface what we're doing, like we have always, with Marcia on our shows, we've always tried to kind of go out and check the pulse of the community and find out what's really interesting them right now or bothering them in some cases. And so obviously, what we're going through right now with all of the illnesses is something that's very prevalent in everybody's mind. So Marcia went out and kind of queried a lot of the people. She did a woman and man on the street kind of thing to get some questions for you.
So we put together a list out of all these queries. Mostly they were done by email. I didn't stand on the corner and ask, but no, that's exactly right. But we did, as Kathleen said, we queried as many as were possible about, what are your questions and concerns?
Sure.
So with that information then, Kathleen and I put together a list of 4 questions, which we gave you ahead of time. So I think we'll just go ahead and start the questions. I'll start, and then Kathleen will ask you the second question. I will start with the first one, which is, when do you think this is going to end? Which is what everybody, of course, is asking.
This is a very difficult question. We are fortunate and we are unfortunate. We are unfortunate in a sense that we were dealing with not only one situation, we were dealing with 2 situations. One was the flu virus or influenza virus that was causing respiratory symptoms, and the second thing was norovirus that was causing problems with the gastrointestinal tract like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. We are fortunate in a sense that we don't have any flu virus till recently, so we are pretty well going good on that. As far as norovirus is concerned, we are again fortunate and unfortunate. We are fortunate in a sense that we do not have any norovirus case in the Garden Ridge skilled care, assisted living, long-term care, and those facilities are fully operational. As far as the independent living is concerned, like apartments, we are still having issues. And there are reasons to have this outbreak of norovirus is still going on in our community in the apartment buildings. First of all, it's very difficult to say when is it going to end. The reason is that if we have any ammunition against this virus, we can use that and we can control it. But the only thing we have against this virus is our self-defense. What is the self-defense? We have to pay a lot of emphasis on personal and environmental hygiene, because this virus spreads through contaminated food, contaminated water, person-to-person contact, and sometimes occasionally if somebody vomits, then droplets are formed, and in that droplet the surrounding people can be affected. And second, so the problem with norovirus is that incubation period is very small. It's 2 to 4 days, 24 hours to 48 hours. What does the incubation period mean? Incubation period means when a person is affected with this virus, what will happen that it can take up to 48 hours to become positively symptomatic. So we have a very brief period of time when we can see that the patient was affected and became symptomatic. Second thing is,
And during that time, is a person contagious?
yes, yes. And the second thing is, even if the person gets better, he continues to shed the virus in his stools or feces for 2 weeks. But
2 weeks.
2 weeks. But unfortunately, we still are not sure, we don't know whether during that period the person is infective or no. So this is only academic value. Now, the virus is very infective, highly contagious. There are at least 21 million cases of gastroenteritis in the United States every year. And 60% of the cases are because of the norovirus. And all over the world, around 200,000 deaths, especially in developing countries, happens associated with norovirus. Norovirus is mostly very common in confined places like healthcare facilities, the way we have it here, cruise ships, schools, and daycare centers. And the virus is very strong. It stays alive outside on the dry surfaces, on the contaminated surfaces also. It can survive in winter, and it can tolerate heat up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
240.
140 degrees
140.
Fahrenheit. And the second thing is there are 5 major groups of norovirus. One group, G2, is the one which mostly affects the human beings, but the major host of this virus is mammals and the humans. The problem is that there are multiple genotypes or multiple types of noroviruses. If one virus affects a person, it can create partial immunity. It can give partial immunity, but it does not last long. So because once you have a virus, it doesn't mean that you are not going to have the same virus again infected you in the same year. So statistically they have seen that norovirus can affect a person 5 times in a year.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. That's not good news.
That's not a good news. But these are the difficulties and problems, and because we do not have any vaccine available. So what we have, the only tool we have is, we ask the patient to please restrain yourself for your security, for the community security, and for the security of the people who are helping you. So remain isolated. So we have created multiple, levels. For example, our plan in the skilled care or continuous care or independent living or employee health is different because of the different reasons. In independent living, we advise people to please stay in your apartments at least for 4 days or the symptoms are over. And this is hard. But this is the only security you have, and this is the main service you can give to your friends in the surrounding, in the environment, and to this community by avoiding spreading this virus to the other persons. It is hard, but the life is hard too. So these are the reasons that we cannot say how long it will take. This virus is peak season starts in December, January, February, and it starts to slow down in March. So this is the peak season we are going through. But I am not disappointed with our Green Spring response. We have done extraordinary, incredible job to contain it. We have around 80 cases during this. 83 cases. And the last one was last night. It's all mostly, now since Monday, it's mostly in the independent living. recently we heard that in some Winter Olympics, the, guards are infected with norovirus. If the norovirus is affecting the security guards, then this community, which is 100 years, 95 years old, they are fighting very bravely. And we are standing firm, and I have pretty good hopes that things will be all right.
Dr. Dahar, in order to lift this quarantine, or I'm not quite sure whether that's the term you were using, limited access of residents, will you need to get down to 0 cases for a certain length of time?
We need to get down, not only down to 0 cases, but at least 72 hours after the 0 cases, we do not have any case. So if today we say that this is the 0 day, then from now on, at least 72 hours further down the road, we will see if there is no more infection, then we will assume that probably we are getting there and we can take a risk of opening our activities.
You don't see any possibility of this going on for another year.
Well, winter is ending, so nature is going to be towards our side. So nature will be helping us and the virus will be controlled. But even without that, I think we will not go through next year. We will be better before that.
That's hopeful. Another question that people had was, since we know that we're not the only community or the only place in the world that's having this problem, are we getting any direction or any guidance from the Center on Disease Control or the state or local health departments?
We are a part of healthcare industry here. And this is the second most regulated, system in the United States. So there are rules and regulations which Erickson and Greenspring follow strictly. And from the beginning, we are in communication with the health department. And health department has their own, protocols to communicate with the CDC. CDC is an authority that gives you information and direction. Health department keeps all the record. So we are in communication with the health department. Every provider in Virginia has to inform the health department if there is any GI like diarrhea outbreak. So we are in contact with them.
Okay. They don't impose quarantines or guidelines in terms of communities like this?
Well, Erickson guidelines are based on CDC guidelines. So we are not working independently like out of a blue. We created some guidelines. We are following whatever the CDC guidelines are. And our plan is based on their guidelines. And sometimes we are one step ahead and try to keep our community. For example, I was going through the literature recently. They were saying that there is no need to, use disposable plates and in the restaurants. You can use the common washing machines and continue to use that. But we are one step ahead. We are using the disposable plates. We don't want to take any risk here.
Is the same situation of the flu and the norovirus true in the other Erickson communities as well? Or some of them at least?
I am not 100% informed about that, so I will probably not comment on that. It's better for me. But from our Greenspring, we are making headways. I think we are not out of it, but at least from flu, we are better off. And for norovirus, this week was a little bit disappointing. We were thinking that we are getting control on everything. But recent 8 or 9 cases during this week, we have a little bit of understanding that where is it coming from, and probably we are working on that to control that.
Are you seeing clusters here?
This time, again, I'm not the epidemiologist, but whatever I have been told, this might be a little bit of cluster. So if we manage to control that,
By
probably,
neighborhood?
yes, we will be able to control the situation too.
Okay, that's certainly interesting. I think one of the questions that a lot of folks had too is who is making the decisions at Green Spring?
Well, again, Green Spring is very organized. And we have an emergency preparedness plan. And it has a special protocol. It has a command and control system. The emergency preparedness plans works with, first of all, we identify the case. For example, if somebody has flu or somebody has norovirus, we need to identify that. So how do we identify and why do we identify? First of all, the identification, the first case was, I think, in January 2nd, 2018. So when we identify, then there is a special protocol in which there is a command center or incident commander. Incident commander is either the executive director or associate executive director. And in this case, I think it's Ann Anderson. She's the incident commander. She creates a group or a committee that involves everybody who is concerned, the leaders, community leaders. In these community leaders, we have security staff, which is the first-hand, person who comes in communication with the person. And if the security staff sees any patient in the independent living, they report it to the medical center administrator, Crystal. And she keeps a record of all those cases who are happening in the community independent living. And the second person is acute care coordinators. If somebody is hospitalized, acute care coordinator is part of the team who keeps of records of who is going to the hospital, who is coming from the hospital. And then there are director of nursing. Then there are health service administrator. Director of nursing also keeps an eye on whatever is going on in Green Spring and continuous care. Then health service administrator, like for example, home health services administrator, hospice service administrator, and home support. They keep an eye on the patients who are going through these type of services, and if they identify any problem there, they report to the home service administrator, and then home service administrator takes this to the meeting to the incident director. Then community medical center, as I already told you, is informed about the cases going on in the independent living. Then employee health, they take care of the sick employees. So employees who get sick, they inform them. So each of these directors keep a record of what is happening in the community. And then this coordinated committee is headed by the incident commander, and we every day around 4:30 to 5 o'clock have a telephone conference call.
Every day?
Every day. We have a conference call, and we share our information with each other, and then plan ahead what to do, what are our deficiencies, what are potential deficiencies, and how can we avoid and overcome that.
Okay.
And this is the only, basic information I'm giving you, the structural information. But beyond that structural information, a lot of things are going on. For example, communicating information with the patient and patient communicating with us. And in that part, Channel 6 is playing a significant role. They are showing again and again what to do, how to do hand washing, how to do the isolation, how to prevent yourself from infections. And daily on the television screens also we are running shows. And
cubby stuffers.
And cubby stuffers. And they are calling the medical center, and the medical center have a special plan that if somebody gets sick in the independent living, they talk to the security talks to the physician. For example, last night they called me that there is one person sick, what should I do? We listen to the security person, what's going on. We try to assess what is the condition of the patient. If the patient's condition is stable, then we ask them to isolate yourself. Isolation means, contact precaution. Contact precaution means do not communicate with any other person by hand, wash your hands, try to stay in your room, and in case if you have influenza, you wear mask if you go out. If you go out. And
another thing you might just add here, Dr. Dar, is the fact that security will bring a care package,
yes,
which
that's
apparently some residents hadn't known about.
Yes, that's what I'm about to say. That
sorry.
if we feel that the patient will require some type of support, we have created a special package in which we have included medications for vomiting, and in which we have included medication for diarrhea, and we advise the patient to drink a lot of fluid and stay home. But things doesn't stop here. We have to follow up on those patients also.
Yes.
How are they doing tomorrow, day after tomorrow? So if the person gets too sick to the point that he needs to be moved, then we have to transfer him to the hospital. Fortunately, we didn't have any patient who was affected with norovirus which required hospitalization. But we did have patients who had flu and they were hospitalized and then came back and they are doing well.
Good.
So this is the package, and this is the security of the patient. Then, our security people are doing tremendous job. They are exposing themselves.
I was just going to ask you about that. Have any of them gotten it?
I don't have any information about security personnel.
But they're certainly exposed, aren't they?
They are certainly exposed. There is a special protocol. They have to follow that too. So we try to do their security. If some person, we try not to bring those patients in our medical center, but if somebody comes in, we have a protocol for that. Also, we have designated a room in which only those patients go into that room, and the person, doctor or nurse who is supposed to attend that patient needs to follow the protocol of contact isolation as required. For flu differently and for norovirus differently. So this is how we are trying to control
This
it.
is what we're doing right now. That actually brings us to probably the last question that we have, because everything that you've been saying has been really informative. Our residents are getting real antsy, especially because they can't get back to their routines.
They really are. It's taking a toll.
And I think they're getting a little bit defeatist right now. It's like, we've done all this stuff and we still have this problem, so why do we even bother anymore? But what you've said is that it's really our job to continue to take those precautions and, just kind of preach patience at this point to the patients, to the potential patients, because we really have to continue to be on top of it, even though it feels like it's never going to end.
Well, I will not say it is never going to end. It will end.
It just feels like it's never going to end.
It just feels.
Yeah.
I understand. If I am in their place, I will be very frustrated too. But frustration is not going to take us anywhere. We have to get out of this frustration. We have to fight this virus together. And The only way to fight this virus together, with understanding that we don't have any weapon to destroy the virus, we have to save ourselves. And the only way to save ourselves is, personal hygiene, environmental hygiene. If you develop any symptoms, don't be scared, because, most of the time it gets better in 4 days and patients are fine. Very rarely you need IV hydration and hospitalization. If you keep on drinking water, nothing to be scared of, you will be fine. It's a problem. You don't feel good vomiting or going to the bathroom again and again. But believe me, most of the time it gets better on its own. That's a blessing from the nature to us. That's what I can say. But the controlling the virus is personal hygiene. Wash your hand after you go to the bathroom. Wash your hands before you go to the restroom. Wash your hands after you eat your food. And wash your hands or try to avoid contact with the other person. And one more very important thing is that, these wipes we have or solutions we have, antibacterial, these are not effective against the norovirus. Bleach is. So yesterday, in our meeting, the issue was discussed, and probably you will be seeing more frequent cleaning of the public restrooms.
And railings and elevators and things like that as well?
Absolutely. Everything needs to be cleaned.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember from my microbiology classes was that bleach does not have to be straight out of the bottle. Diluted bleach is actually more effective than straight bleach, and it can be quite a dilute.
Yes.
I think it's 2 tablespoons per gallon of water.
This is some type of like this, but you can read it before you use it. But outside your apartment, our environmental cleaning staff is taking care of it.
Yes. I've noticed them spraying even the beepers in the dining room.
Yes.
So
That's great.
That's a big help. Dr. Dar, I think we've covered the waterfront here. Boy, this has really been helpful.
Well, this is helpful. This is frustrating, but my my advice to whole community is don't worry. Keep yourself normal. Enjoy the winter Olympics. I'm not giving you, norovirus is actually giving you a chance to watch the Winter Olympics.
There is a positive refrain for you.
I've discovered that, I've cleaned off my desk and done a lot of things that I needed to do, and I expect a lot of other folks are as well.
All right.
Yeah, so thanks for coming. We'll let you get back to your...
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if this continues, we will invite you back.
Anytime.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming.
Thanks, see you later.
Bye-bye. Well, Kathleen, that was extremely helpful.
Oh my goodness, lots of good information.
Absolutely, it was.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the emotional aspects of all this.
Right.
Because certainly, I think it's a month today that this started.
Yeah.
So we're starting into our 5th week.
Yeah, yeah. And it is getting to that point where people are feeling like kind of defeated. I walk down the hallway and people are going, why are we even bothering? Why can't we just get back to normal? They're so desperate to be able to get back to their normal lives. And I think it is, you kind of do feel like it's just, throw up your hands and, just whatever it is at this point. Yeah. Yeah, that catastrophic thinking where people are just all of a sudden at the point where they just go, yeah, it's never going to end. So from the standpoint of how people are coping with this enforced limitations on their activities after they've cleaned their apartments and after they've
done their taxes,
done all their caught up with all the things that they feel that they have to do. I think that again, it's, an attitude. I think, thinking positively is good, like Dr. Dar said. The positive is you can sit in front of the TV and watch the Olympics and not feel guilty that you're not doing something else. So
I'm sure Netflix is doing a big business in Green Spring.
being able to watch all of that, catch up on all of those shows that you haven't watched. Yeah, so I mean, there is that. I think that one of the things that's kind of conspiring too is the fact that we have had so many dark gray days lately.
And so cold.
But the sun in particular is really important, because what we know about the sun is that it affects your mood. So what I would advise people, I think the sun is still shining right now. It was when I came in. On a sunny day, get out and expose yourself to the sun for a little while, because it really does improve your mood.
All right, that's certainly a very simple, good. If you can stand the cold, get out in the sun.
Yeah, just for a little while. But also, I think that when your mood kind of gets low, then that does sort of mess with your sleep cycles. You might be napping during the day and awake at night. So try to keep regulated as far as when you go to bed and when you wake up, because that really will help your mood too.
Part of what's going on, of course, is that with the fitness center closed and
there's no exercise.
And I think that probably is another factor that is affecting folks.
It is, yeah. They don't have their normal routines, and I think just the normal routine and being taken out of that is also kind of hard for people. But I do see people walking.
Yes,
I see
I do
people
too.
out all the time walking, and they're kind of saying, "Well, I have to do that," and that's burning energy in a positive way,
Yes.
for sure. I think that another thing that we can think about is how people are eating, because food can really affect your mood. And I think that when people feel down a little bit, their tendency is to grab for a sugary snack or like a lot of carbs, simple carbs. And both of those are actually really dangerous, because you get kind of that initial rush of energy, and then you get that
Spike.
downward spike, and that makes you very irritable. It tends to just make you very irritable, which sort of feeds into that negativity too. So what I would advise people, which we always do anyhow, is a good diet, sort of the brain healthy Mediterranean kind of diet. But some of the foods that actually are known to improve your mood, which are sort of in line with that kind of diet, is raw nuts, like walnuts and cashews, berries, dark chocolate, so we get to eat chocolate, but it has to be dark. Coffee. So some of the things we eat and drink anyhow are really, really good. But leafy greens, salmon. So try to be mindful and intentional about what you eat, because it really can affect your diet or affect your mood as well.
Good
so
point.
yeah, I mean, I think those are things that people can, when people start to feel out of control, like this is all happening to them, the best way to feel in control is to take control. So do these things intentionally, and again, as Dr. Dar was saying, continue to practice good hygiene and understand that we are encouraging people to certainly stay in their apartments if they have any kinds of symptoms or feel ill, but also to just understand close proximity to other people is probably not what we're advocating for right now.
I think one of the things that all of us are doing an enormous amount of right now is telephoning.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think that's a huge help.
Yeah.
I mean, it just keeps us all connected.
Yeah, and you had said people were not only calling friends on campus, but also checking in with their families and maybe spending more time on email.
Yeah, because our families really are discouraged from coming as well, particularly if you've got young grandchildren.
Right.
Or great-grandchildren.
Right. And then just, the end, it will happen that all of this will be done.
Yes.
And we can get back to our normal routines. And I guess the other thing, if we want to think about it, is that since we have been taken out of our routines, which we may take for granted in terms of all the great things that you can do here at Green Spring, we can practice gratitude.
Oh my.
I know, sounds bad. But I mean, to say, hey, we do have all these normally, so when we're able to to get back into these routines again, to say, hey, it's really great that we are able to do all these different fun activities and meet with our friends.
It is true that I think we have a new level of appreciation of the kinds of activities that we've been able to do.
And even if you've been sick, I mean, once you start feeling better, to be able to appreciate the fact that you're well, and that your body is starting to heal, and you're starting to feel like you can do the things you used to be able to do again, all positive. So we'll try to leave our viewers with that thought.
Well, very nicely put, Kathleen, and I think you're right. I think we are envisioning our activities with a whole new sense of anticipation.
And yeah, absolutely.
Well, many thanks.
Yeah.
On that good note, you are closing.
I am closing. What am I saying?
You're saying, gee, this was a good program. Let's close up.
That's right. It was a great program. Thanks to Dr. Dar for sure. So much information, so much good knowledge that he has. And I guess the other part that I would say too is, now that I'm in the medical center, I really am seeing firsthand how much work is put into every day making sure that our residents stay healthy and well. So, that's another thing that people can be grateful for, even though they feel like we're maybe being too tough on them sometimes. But
one thing we might do too before we close is give a plug for our show tomorrow.
Oh, I did want to say that, yeah.
Yeah, we have a Vantage Point tomorrow, and it is the Me Too movement and resident stories about their Me Too experiences.
Yeah, that's going to be really good.
I think
I hope people tune in for that.
Absolutely, I think it's going to be especially interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think with that, we're probably finished for the day.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Everybody have a good day.
Thanks for joining us.